Good evening, and welcome to the Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show. Tonight, I have musician, journalist, and author Graham MacSkimming. Did I get that right, Graham?
That's right.
MacSkimming. All right. Everybody that knows the show, that watches the show, knows I will slaughter a name. Um, it's okay to laugh. We do that here. Graham actually had his first encounter in 2021. We'll be going into that tonight, but I really wanted to highlight his book.
2012, actually.
So this is why we call it the Not So Perfect Bigfoot Shows.
That's okay.
Because I slaughter. We had to practice your name like 2 minutes before I got it right. And I'm terrible like that, but I'm also human. 2012, he had an encounter. I'll let him go into that, but I really want to focus on his book. It's Sasquatch Quotes Wisdom of the Hairy People. Now, this book can be found on Amazon, and I would recommend it. We're going to go into that. We're going to speak into that, and just as sure as I started my show, Swamp Kitty is sliding up here. You're about to see the spray bottle come out. If you want to find out a little bit about Graham and his music, go to grahammacskimming.substack.com. He also has a Facebook, Sasquotes Wisdom of the Hairy People. Find them on Facebook, check them out, check his book out, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed because he's a great guy. He is also a very dedicated husband to his very beautiful wife, Amy. She just dropped in and said hello. What a beautiful smile. And I really mean that. So let's go into where this started at. Is that where you'd like to begin tonight?
Sure, that'd be great.
And you take it where you want to take it.
Sure. Well, I guess it all started in 2012, like we were saying, and I went over to Missouri from Vancouver. I was living in Vancouver, Canada at the time. I now live in Perth, Ontario. It's a small town in Ontario. And so, yeah, I went all the way from Vancouver to visit my girlfriend at the time in Missouri, and she had moved to a very small community in Missouri. Not too many people there. I don't name the place because I don't want a whole bunch of cameras and wild stuff going on there and bothering everybody over there. Because, yeah, it's a very small place. And well, I guess she showed me some photos. She'd been out for a walk one day and found what seemed to be a wilderness shelter, you know, a little stick shelter and branches and whatnot to shield somebody from the elements as they sleep the night over in the woods. And so I thought, well, I'd done a wilderness survival course when I was in Vancouver. And it kind of reminded me a bit of the shelter that I built, except it was way better, by far, actually, and way more sophisticated than anything I could build. And I thought whoever built this was a genius at wilderness survival, really knew their stuff. And so I thought, okay, does anybody in that area practice wilderness survival? Is that kind of a hobby over there that people are into, or what? And the answer was no. They like to go out fishing and, you know, maybe for a hike. Other than that, people, you know, do stay inside and with their computers and whatnot and do their thing like the city people do often, watching TV or whatnot. So it wasn't really a wilderness survival type of thing, I didn't think. And I'd actually spent about 3 years just reading about Sasquatch and wondering if Sasquatch was really real or not. And I thought, could this be Sasquatch? And that's where it started, my curiosity as to if something was going on in that area in Missouri or not.
The more you learn about Sasquatch and the behaviors of Sasquatch, the more you go into the woods, you start to see a lot of things that start to make sense to you that you probably overlooked before. Did you find that to be the case?
Yeah. Well, it took a while. When I first arrived, I didn't notice anything unusual. I think I was there for about 2 weeks, and it just was, my normal life as it had been before, until suddenly I looked around me in the woods and I noticed all these structures with trees, branches, sticks, any type of wood. There seemed to be a lot of artificially made structures going on, because it would have taken a creature with opposable thumbs to place the sticks or the branches in that way. Or it would have to be someone or something really big to reach so tall to snap those trees. They weren't rotten trees, and there were no other trees around them that had knocked this tree down, for example. And there was no signs of industrial activity, no boot footprints, no signs of a backhoe or anything like that pulling trees down or whatnot. They were ginormous trees being just uprooted completely in this area. They were way wider than me. It would have been taken three of me to
Wow.
reach around some of these trees, and they were completely uprooted. So the root structure was completely exposed over the soil. And
They were
yeah,
they were healthy trees too.
they were. So I immediately wondered what pulled these trees down. But the thing is with the root structure up high above the soil like that, it created another great wilderness shelter, because it broke the wind on you. You just had to snuggle up against that root structure in that tree, that fallen tree, and it will keep you warm and pressed against the soil, which was kind of a mud soil. So it created impressions in the soil, and I noticed humanoid forms that had been lying on their side, just in the way I'm describing, against the root structure, the exposed root structure.
Wow. So that led you to your first experience or your first sighting.
Yeah, I was in Missouri in between January and February of 2012. And then I went back to Vancouver for several months, and then visited Missouri again. I arrived on August 20th, 2012. And it was in that second visit, that's when I actually saw Sasquatch.
Uh, Can you kind of go over what happened that day and how it made you feel?
Oh, well, I guess maybe technically I'd already had sightings of Sasquatch, but I wasn't sure because they were at such a distance.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I say that this one was at much closer range. The figure was 20 feet away from me, and it was actually lit up because of a backyard floodlight that was in somebody's backyard on the mountain on the other side of the lake. There were houses on the top of that mountain that overlooked the lake on the other side of it. And whoever's floodlight lit this figure up so I could see them completely clearly, the outline at least of them. They were so dark that it was hard to see their face.
I had a friend that I spoke with in Georgia, and he seen the silhouette going by the light, and he was talking about how the chin kind of was dominant over everything else with the silhouette and everything. When you seen them, how big was the head in relation to the body? Because I get the cone shapes, larger head. I get the slender type that's reported.
The breed, you might say, that are in that area of Missouri I'm not saying that every single individual is of that breed, because they're not. I know that for a fact. But the main, let's say,
I,
species or breed that occupies that area, it's their territory, officially, you know, as far as they're concerned, have heads that are the same shape as a human head. They don't have a sagittal crest like the Sasquatch of the Pacific Northwest, perhaps, or those in the figure of Patty in the Patterson-Gimlin film. You see a sagittal crest. These individuals don't have that.
when you say you know for sure that there's different types in Missouri, does that come from interviewing people, or does that come from your own experience, or what led you to that conclusion?
Well, it's my own experience.
You want to
My,
go into more?
what's that?
Did you want to go more into that?
Oh, what different types there are?
Well, with your experiences.
Yeah, well, I guess the funny thing about Missouri was that, like I said, they all seem to, most of them seem to be, not all of them, but most of them seem to be of a certain type that they're not the type that most people are familiar with the arms reaching below the knees, and the sagittal crest. These people have the same bodily proportions as humans do. It's just they're much larger than us, much, much larger. As in, average male height would be over 8 feet.
If it makes you feel better, in North Carolina, a lot of reports that I get, they're tall, slender, athletic. Um, just almost would look like a human running across the fields. So we do get a lot of that. But I think in the Bigfoot world, we all kind of get stuck on the patty type, and we forget that there's different types out there. And but could be something as simple as most people are experiencing the patty type, because if you look at something that's tall, slender, athletic built, almost like a professional basketball player, if you glance at it, it almost would look like somebody in a gym suit, or a hoodie, or a gym outfit running across the field. So if you're driving by in a car, and that's what you're seeing in your peripheral, that's what you think you're seeing. Because your mind's not prepared for what it really is. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're not used to seeing people in hoodies running through an obscure field of tall grass or a swamp with, cattails or whatever. And like, I mean, what is that person doing there? Right? Like, you have to think, okay, what's going on here? And your mind, yeah, it jumps to all sorts of possibilities. Okay, yeah, that could be a guy in a hoodie. That could be a crazy man. That could be Bigfoot. That could be a bear. That could be some other sort of animal. That could be an ape. That could be anything, right? And usually I found that my mind tended to come to the strange conclusion that what I was seeing was human, even though one time what I saw looked absolutely not human at all, really. So the mind can do some funny things when faced with what I call liminal experiences, meaning we've never had this experience before, ever. It's completely new to us.
You got to the point at some point in your, I really hate to say investigations, but at some point in your experiences, at some point with you trying to find out more about them, where you felt like you could read them very well and you could communicate with them. Am I correct with that?
That's right.
Would you, because that's ultimately what led up to your book, and
Correct.
the generous nature of the book, and it's almost like wisdom coming through. And you know that's your experience and your where your research and your experiences took you, and you put it in a book. Can we lead up to that book? And then I would like to, um, because I cannot connect things or show things because I am techni- tech technology stupid, sir. Um, let's go into your book, show your book, and let's just take it from there because that was a pretty incredible journey.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, here's the book. Let's see if hopefully it won't glare on the screen too much.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. Sasquotes, Wisdom of the Hairy People. And you can find it on Amazon. He also has a Facebook. You guys can go check it out. And can you tell me about the picture on the front?
Yeah. I was actually, all I was trying to do was take a picture of a stick that I believed had some kind of significance to this people that I was, studying quite intensively in Missouri. And it was a stick that's in the shape of a Y. Like there's one main branch and then it branches out here and out there like a Y. And I would always find sticks like that put in prominent places. I found that was strange. I'd just sort of come to an open area and there in front of me would be a Y stick. And it's like, okay, sure, it could have fallen there and wound up there due to any number of circumstances, but it kept on happening over and over and over. So I took a picture of this Y stick. And while I was holding my camera up, I thought I saw a Sasquatch behind a tree. And I don't think I'd actually had my first official sighting as I described to you at that point. And I basically decided that what I was seeing was tree bark hanging off of the tree. So I saw the tree bough solid and then something hanging off of it is what I thought I was seeing. But what happened when I got home and I zoomed in on that spot, I could see his little face peeking out, or a big face actually, but in the photo it's kind of small because you have to zoom in so closely into the shot to see his face peeking out from behind the tree. And what I eventually figured out was his right arm with a whole lot of hair hanging off of it. And you can see his hand is actually doing something rather strange. He's kind of going like this with his thumb sticking out front and his fingers sort of more here or here. I can't even twist my hand the way he did. I don't know, maybe they have double jointed wrists, who knows? But you see a big blob there on the left, and that's actually the hair hanging off of his arm. And
Wow.
most people look at that part of the photo and they try to find a face in there to see if maybe I caught a face. But the face is actually on the right, and it's partially obscured by the tree. And I used some enhancement to focus on that figure and kind of blur out the trees so you don't just look at the trees and think, oh, this is just a mess, and you don't see anything. So that's the enhanced shot. The raw shot, I invite anybody to study that shot. It is up on the net on Facebook, actually. Anybody can ask me where it is and I can show them or send them the shot itself if they want to check it out for themselves.
I think that's outstanding. So what possessed you, or when did you know that you had to write this book?
I guess it was after many months of taking notes because I had developed telepathy with them. And I wrote down what was said in these conversations. And sometimes the things they would say were so damn profound that I had to write them down. It's just for future reference at the very least. And I decided I thought of those Hazelden book series. It's a series of books called Hazelden Books. and they're little morning reflections. You can kind of grab these little books, little handheld books, and just flip to any page, and there's a little quote, and it's something that is, you know, wise and profound that can sort of help you start your day on the right track. And I found that some of the things that they would say reminded me of that level of profundity, and that would be helpful to somebody to start their day. So I decided to compile all the quotes and put them into a book.
Have you ever had that experience with, I call it mind speak. If that bothers you, I apologize. Have you ever had experienced that before?
Have I ever
Before
experienced what before?
the mind speak. Have you ever with them talking to you?
Oh yeah, I call that quantum communication in my book, and in my book series, I call the series, there's going to be a second and hopefully more books in the future. I call them quantum quotes books, because I have this concept of quantum communication. It's an explanation of telepathy. And yeah, I've heard people call it mind speak as well. I'm not sure if that's a sort of subtle difference to telepathy, or you know, I'm not as familiar with that term myself. So that's why I'm
Well,
saying that.
well, I was introduced to similar circumstances as mind speak. So I apologize. No offense
Oh, no
meant.
problem.
Now, I was listening to a gentleman with government connections that actually what you're saying is really not. It's where some people think it's absurd. It's really not. It's almost like the military uses it.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've ever watched Sean Ryan, one of my favorite people. He has a lot of people that had the CIA contracts, and a lot of people in government and such, that they actually talk about that, and where it is a form of communication. And they also talk about the remote viewing. I have someone actually going to come on and speak about that. But so for someone to say that's far-fetched, if that's your experience, then I mean, I appreciate the fact that you embrace it, and that you have put it down in a book. And so I know, as mind speak, or as you call it, tele
Telepathy.
telepathy. I told you I weren't the brightest crayon in the book, and it's not. I'm not insulting you,
Kind of a
but
strange
I
word.
do. Well, I do have a sometimes hard time comprehending words. Sometimes it comes from a head trauma, so I apologize. Um, so I appreciate the fact that you put that down on paper, and you wanted to share the world with it. But I wanted to say that because there's a lot of people out there that don't have a lot of positive things to say about that. And I just feel like, you know what, that's your experience. Thank you for putting it on paper. And that there are agencies out there that have experience with using that. And I just wanted to make that point. So excuse me for getting on my soapbox.
Oh, I appreciate that, because I kind of made a similar point recently, you know, because some people do find that to be absurd, and strangely, they might not find Bigfoot or Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever, to be absurd, but they find the idea of having telepathy with Bigfoot absurd. Well, you've already gone into wacko zone anyway. You might as well go for the telepathy too. Come on.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you like this, Graham. It's your experience and it's your story, and they don't pay your bills, and they don't put supper on the stove for you, and they don't keep you warm at night. So good for you. And I do agree with you. There are programs out there, and I'm actually fixing to do a deep dive in a remote viewing and how it's used in the Bigfoot world by some very credible people. So, so there's that, sir. Let's get
Mhm.
back to your book. So, out of all the quotes, out of all of the um, moments that you've sat there, you've been able to, I don't know if it's communication or it just comes in your mind, or it's you have to be quiet and meditate again. I don't know. But out of all the things that have been shared with you, what quote in your book stands out to be the most prominent and most important one?
Oh wow, that's a good question.
I have my moments sometimes.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Wow, I think there's 100 quotes in the book. I think that's what I decided to set it at the number 100. So I have to think through 100 quotes here. Which one could be the most important? I don't know.
Which one has had the most impact on your life?
There's one that I keep thinking of, and I'm thinking about it these days just because of what's going on in my life. And well, the good thing about the book is that it does have an index. So if you manage to get familiar with the wild names of the different Sasquatch people, then you can maybe remember that. Say for me, this quote I'm looking for is by Chief Pushoma.
Chief question.
He's a chief of a Sasquatch. Actually, I think he's probably a chief of a number of clans. He's a big guy. And
So,
if I look through which pages he has quotes on in the index, I might be able to find this quote in which he talks about thinking about your problems. And the thing about thinking about your problems is that's all you're doing, right? You're sitting there thinking about your problems. And the amazing thing is that that's exactly what it accomplishes. You sat down and you thought about your problems. So that reminds me not to sit around and do that too much. Look before I leap. I'll think a little bit, but I don't want to be thinking forever about everything.
it's kind of like the laws of attraction. If you stay stuck on it, then you never go forward.
Exactly. Um, I may never find this particular quote because there's quite a few from Chief Pashoma, but
So
yeah, I'll try one more time.
that's
Oh,
fine.
I thought I
Bad
found it.
Vicky.
I did find it.
Oh, good, good, good. I was
This
going
is
to say
it.
bad Vicky, bad Vicky.
If you try to think your way out of the problems you have, all you will have done is think about your problems. Chief Pashoma of the Itakan Tatanta of the Eastern Lands.
Wow.
The Itakan Tatanta is the name of their people, and that's the particular breed that I'm talking about that have proportions that are similar to human bodily proportions. And they're also known as the Ancient Ones. Another researcher was telepathed that name by Chief Pashoma himself to call them the Ancient Ones. He said, "You can call us the Ancient Ones."
When you say ancient ones, are they almost like tribal, or are you thinking from another time or another, like they travel through space?
Another time, the first impression that I got when I heard that name or that term was the humans that came before. We're the new guys, and they're the older guys. So they're the
Almost
older
like,
version, we're the newer version of basically the same thing.
so almost like ancient tribal,
Or an ancient people and ancient humans, you could say.
ancient
They're
human.
basically saying we're the same as you. We come from the same spot.
I bet they're mighty disappointed in the way we turned out.
Yeah, they're not too happy about it.
I'm not too happy about it either, because all we ever do is argue and fight with each other. And if someone don't think the same as you do, then they must be wrong. So that's probably seems to be the problem these days. So
That's right.
when you go out, do you sit alone? Do you have to isolate yourself from the just the technology and just the overwhelming production of the world, or can you just be anywhere and you feel like they're speaking to you? Because that's what I'm curious about, because that's what led to the book to me.
I can basically, as long as I can concentrate well, I can have this quantum communication with them. If I'm distracted or stressed out or in a hurry, that's not a good time. Um, so I try to sort of calm myself down a bit before I make an attempt at it.
When you started writing your book, did you have mixed feelings about some of the quotes you put in it? Because they can't always all be positive. I mean, let's face it, were there things you had to restrain yourself and not put in the book? They
Um,
communicated.
Not too much, because with them, they are extremely diplomatic. They they don't trash talk at all. Um, if they really don't like something, it's probably because that thing is truly evil. And they might say that. They might say, well, they actually, they won't even call a spade a lot of the time. They'll just kind of work around it so you know what they're talking about, but they don't kind of say it directly because they don't like to mention negative things. They don't even like going there, because the more we talk about negativity, the more we're in negativity, and they don't want to
How,
do that.
how, how did you happen to find the area where you were able to have open communication with them? Because to me, the book's a gift, the wisdom's a gift. Is this something that you just came upon? Is it something you were drawn, a place you were drawn to go to? Do you have to go to the location? Um, just for people that are curious. I mean, help me understand it because I'm trying to learn.
Yeah, well, when it first happened, I was just outside the house in Missouri, just in the yard.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know what I was doing, just some yard work or something. And this, in my mind, it was kind of like somebody started pressing a button. And that button meant, say, the word dog. And then this other button meant the word cat. And he kept pressing the buttons till it formed a sentence. It could have been, say, for example, the dog and the cat had a fight.
Uh-huh.
A hypothetical sentence. And he just found all the places in my mind where those words were, or the meaning of those words were. And then it formed a sentence. And then it's like, I'm like, somebody is trying to say something to me. And unfortunately, I'm not hearing it. I did not expect this at all. I was flabbergasted. I'd heard of it happening, but to have it actually happen was quite a revelation, to say the least.
Well, that's almost like having explained to someone that you've had a Bigfoot encounter or experience. I mean, you get a hard way to go just for that alone. But then when you take it a step further, it really, takes courage to come out like that. And I'll be the first to tell you where I was at in the Bigfoot community. when I started, I'm still flesh and blood, but the more I go down that rabbit hole, as they say, the more I realize there's so much more I do not understand. And it's almost like some of the most credible people that I have spoken to has enlightened me, mostly behind the scenes, about things that are very similar to what you're telling me. But there are those that just choose to not do it in front of people because of the feedback that you get from people.
Hmm.
And so how has that changed you and impacted your life?
Well, I mean, the first thing is, are you willing to come out and say, yes, I do know slash believe that Bigfoot exists? That's the
Yeah,
first step. And that really, like I said, that is in the wacko zone as far as our culture is concerned. Not as far as I'm concerned or you're concerned. But that's how our society sees it. So if you're going to come out and say that, really, the fact that telepathy came into it, psychic phenomena, and all sorts of other wild stuff, whatever you want to call it, um, that's not of the flesh and blood interpretation of what the Sasquatch might be. Um, as far as the mass of public is concerned, you're still crazy. So it doesn't really matter to say this stuff to me. As far as other researchers go, knowing that they're going to say I'm crazy, well, that's annoying, but that's the way it is, because it was hard for me to believe when I first heard that kind of information myself. So in a way, I can't blame anybody for saying that's bizarre.
well, I try to address the elephant in the room, and it's just like I had the young lady Penny Rummel, you know her.
Yeah, I'm a good friend of hers.
I had her on, and she pointed out something to me. But I was trying to say, what I try to do is show that we're all people, we're all everyday people. I was pointing out her background. She's married, she has grandchildren, she has this great education, she has served our country, and these are people that is outside of what people consider norm, and where they tag people, in a negative light. When you put a face to people and you show that they are as human and the same as you are, it's really kind of hard to criticize them, I would hope. And that is why I'm trying to focus on you as a person, because a journalist, a musician, someone that has authored a book, that's above average. And I just think that was important. So I apologize if I kind of led you down a road you weren't comfortable with, but I think it's important for people to see the person that they may be judging out there, because we all have our own stories. And until you've been in their shoes and you've had their experience, you know, don't, one day somebody may be in your shoes and saying, I talked all that smack these years, and here I am experiencing the same thing.
You never know, that could happen one day.
I, I've, I've, I spoke to a handful of people, that has eaten their words. They may not out in the field and, you know, to people, but to their circle and the people they trust, they have eaten their words. I just wanted to put that out there, because we all have a face, we all are people, and our experiences are different. That person can go where their research takes them and their experience takes them. You went with yours take. I am learning things that I thought I would never say. I thought I would never say it. And I respect the fact that you're sharing this. I respect the fact that you put a book out there. I think that your quotes have substance, and for anyone that loves Sasquatch, that anyone that loves the subject, I hope they go to Amazon, and I hope that Amazon gets flooded with book sales because everybody needs a positive quote. And if you love Sasquatch and you love something positive, why not? That's
Oh, you're
just
so nice. You're the best host ever.
stop it. But I do mean that. So I do mean that. So a lot of this tonight, I've been asking you a lot of questions that we did not prepare for. I'm gonna just let you take it where you want to go and what you want to talk about because this is your show.
Oh, thanks.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
well, um, hmm. Well, we were talking about the time that I first experienced telepathy with Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I call it quantum communication. And there's the forward to the book is called "What is Quantum Communication?" So in the book, it explains that, and some ideas that I was inspired to compile based on what I'd learned of quantum mechanics and theories in quantum mechanics that are, accepted theories in quantum mechanics or quantum physics today. And just to show how, from a human perspective, how we might interpret telepathy, how to find out how it could be possible. And so that's my idea of how telepathy could be possible, and that's why I called it quantum communication. And I guess it's also, I decided to write the book based on quotes I'd had in these conversations, because I thought that was one of the most interesting things that I learned about Sasquatch was that that they have a culture, that they have families, feelings, thoughts, hopes, dreams. So it's essentially the same as us, but I hate to say it, but they go a heck of a lot deeper than we do into all those things, and their hearts are way big. They're as big as they are physically big. And we have a lot to learn from them. So yeah, I guess that's why I wanted to put some of their wisdom, as I say, wisdom of the hairy people, down into the book, because they have a lot to teach us. And in fact, they might even be our lifeline to avoiding disaster. As you know, things aren't going too well in the world at this point, and they haven't been for quite a while. So hopefully we'll avert disaster and keep on going as a benign race instead of a destructive one.
What do you think the biggest threat to them are?
The biggest threat to them? Well, certainly not our guns and bombs and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if it was a war against Sasquatch, I guess most people would think, well, yeah, we'd blow them up and we'd shoot them all, and we'd do all sorts of things with all our great weapons and technology. We'd blow them out of the water, right? Well, that's not going to do anything to them. A threat, I'd say if there is a threat to the Sasquatch, it's the same threat that we have against us as human beings. And unfortunately, that gets into even wilder stuff. So if we want to really take it into the wild stuff, we can go there, and I can explain
Sure.
why the heck I'm saying this, or we can just talk about something else.
No. You know what? Let's go where people don't want to go because
Okay.
that's a part of what you have come to know, and that's where your experience has taken you. Let's go. If you don't like it, I'm sorry.
Well, man, as far as I'm concerned, there is sort of a general threat to humanity and to our planet. And I think that the Sasquatch would agree with me that there is one main extraterrestrial group that is causing a lot of the problems. Or you might say interdimensional group. You see, these beings live in different planets in our universe and in different realities and different dimensions. And they're the same old ones that everybody likes to talk about. I'm afraid it's true. There are reptilian humanoid beings that hate the heck out of us. I'm trying not to use those words, right? For your show, for the sake of your show.
You can say
Um,
what you wish.
and they don't like us at all. And well, actually, they like what we provide for them, but they don't seem to have any respect for us as fellow beings in the universe. And they have influenced our society to a great degree, and our genetics even. And that's one reason why we're not the same species essentially as we were when we first came about. And that goes into, well, Genesis, and that can bring up religious issues. That can, and of course it brings up scientific issues, because on the scientific side of things, most people believe in the theory of evolution that came from Charles Darwin. And that doesn't mean that the theory of evolution is bunk. But as far as I can tell from what I've learned from the Sasquatch, is that humanity was genetically engineered from other intelligent species that contributed their genetics towards a new type of being. And originally, that human being could communicate telepathically with other members of their species and members of other intelligent species. But over time, we lost that ability, and it was beaten out of us as well through our culture, very purposefully, very deliberately, because there are creatures out there that don't want us to have those abilities. That essentially separates us from all other intelligent life in the universe. It's the fact that we cannot telepathically communicate, and everyone else can.
Do you think the more progress we make, the more technical we get, the more we're glued to our computers and our TVs, and do you think that is part of the reason we get away from what our our ancestors could tap into, and because to me, we've become so dependent on electronics that, I mean, we don't even meditate. A lot of people don't even meditate anymore. My husband meditates every night. He's one of the most clear-minded people. I'm like, how does he do that? I mean, but it's meditation. So our minds, to me, our minds are just boggled down, that we're not in touch of who we used to be, if that makes sense. I don't know. It could be a rat. I'm known for that, but
Yes, well, certainly the less meditative someone's brain is, the less healthy the brain is, because we need the brain waves that are created by a meditative state in order to retain integration of our brain, our neurological functions. If we're constantly stressed and always say we're always talking and always thinking and always running around, then our brain has no peace. There's no balance within the brain, and there's no ability to sanely function.
I heard a while back that the heart is as key as the brain when it comes to how the heart was thinks for you more than the brain. I can't remember how it was put. I probably should think this through before I open my mouth sometime. But your heart functions the same as your brain, but we always think our brain controls everything, but the central unit is actually the heart, not because it pumps the blood, but it's as I wish we had a live chat because somebody would throw it right up there. Do you know where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I think so.
Could you
The
explain it better?
well, I think that the cutting edge of medicine at this point, if somebody said the heart is an intelligent organ, you wouldn't be laughed out of town, right? At this point, I think doctors are beginning to realize that the heart, the organ, retains an incredible amount of information. And that's really proven by what happens with heart transplants, and the people who receive a heart from somebody else actually receive all these memories and they don't know where they've come from. And then they find out that they are, in fact, the memories of the person who once owned that heart.
Wow. I actually heard today where they can actually do complete head transplants from one
Whoa.
body to they. Yes, I did. Look it up. They are going with that. I think they said within 8 years that they'll have where they could take a person's head, transport it or refer it to a younger body, and the person will be able to function. How in the I know I'm on like YouTube, but how in the hell? I don't want that. Just put me in a grave.
Yeah.
I'll make me fish food. I'm cool with that. I don't want my head floating around on somebody's. They would probably put me on a rowdy 2-year-old that just throwing doo doo against the walls.
Yeah, I did read an article about brain transplants. How long ago? Maybe about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And there was a doctor who's convinced that he can do it. That was 4 years ago. Yeah. So who knows what's going on now? But at the time,
The
he
whole
figured he
head.
could do it.
It's the whole head. And the reason we went down this rabbit hole, I'm sorry, we were getting to where.
So they would get the person's face, the whole head.
Yeah, could you imagine coming through the door, honey, I'm home, when your wife's like, I don't, that's not your body.
Who are you?
Yeah, you.
Oh my
No,
God.
that's creepy. It might be good for some people. I don't know, but I'm not into that. Anyway, I just we're getting so far advanced that I think we're forgetting to be human sometimes. And in the midst of all of that, sometimes I think we forget human kindness and
Mhm.
connecting to the very things that we need spiritually. And when I say spiritually, it's whatever brings peace to you and where you find your peace at. And I think that being positive and spreading something positive out there in society today, especially when it comes from someone that's ancient and has watched us evolve and literally destroy ourselves. I think your book's going to be pretty interesting. I can't wait to get it and I can't wait to read it. And I explained to you why I didn't have it yet. So I can't wait. I will have it. It will be ordered tonight. Today was payday.
Nice.
Yes, today was payday.
Well, I'll have to sign your copy sometime too.
Absolutely.
When we get a chance.
Absolutely. So what's in the future for you? What are you working on? I know you said you're working on volume 2.
Yeah, of the Quantum Quotes series of books that will also have telepathically derived quotes from what I like to call anomalous beings. So the next one is going to be quotes from extraterrestrials, because when I went to that place in Missouri, I was also surrounded by UFOs. and had some pretty wild experiences on that level as well. So the whole thing about, does Bigfoot have any association with UFOs or extraterrestrials? Well, the answer to that question would be yes, they definitely do. So I discovered that as well in this place. It was just so wild, I couldn't even believe what I was seeing.
Really? What do you think of orbs?
I mostly have had orbs in videos and photos of mine, and Amy gets tons of them. She's kind of an orb queen like Penny. She's got lots of great orb photos and films, and I get them sometimes too when I take photos. But I did see one thing that must have been one of these orbs at some point. It was just so bizarre when I saw it that I didn't know what to make of it, and still, even up to this day, wasn't really sure what to make of it. But it was a ball of light, or a sphere of light. So this sort of ball hanging in the air. And I thought, well, you know, maybe it's some kind of reflection from somebody's light from their house, or from a car, or I don't know what.
Street lamp?
I always went through the process of elimination and deciding what it was that I was seeing out there. And there was no source of light for this sphere just to be hanging there out of nowhere. There was nothing. It was not connected to anything. And it was, yeah, just this orb hanging in the air, sitting there. And I just, it's like, oh, you know, oh yeah, I thought, well, maybe somebody has a flashlight and they're flashing. There's nobody there. There's nobody with a flashlight. It just tripped me right out.
Do you know how many times I've heard that?
No.
They say, mostly describe it as looking like a street lamp that popped up out of the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Like, there is no way there's a street lamp here, you know? So, I mean, you get different, I say this all the time, you get different people, different locations, they don't know each other, and the same thing comes up.
Yeah.
I do think orbs are attracted to a person's aura. Everybody has an aura about them. And I think that there's something about a person's chemistry and their aura that some people get more experiences with orbs than other. Me, my aura is bad. You know, I never, I might have seen one or two in my life, you know, and that was always in you worry. But you have some people that it's just they attract the energy, that their energy of, and these people are mostly positive people. Do you agree with
Right.
that?
I think so. I think that's true. Yeah, because one thing I find is that when the orbs show up in photos or videos, it's often at social events where people are having fun, like a music concert. Or there was this one time, me and all my neighbors got together to witness some meteors. There was going to be a meteor shower.
Mm-hmm.
So we all went out to the lake and, you know, had our cameras, you know, all just having fun. And I said in my mind, so that's all you're doing with telepathy is speaking in your own head. Like you might when you think to yourself, oh, got to go to the store now. And then you probably go to the store, right? So I was just thinking, I just thought in my head, spirits of light, show yourself tonight either so I can see you with my eyes or in one of my photos. And sure enough, in one of my photos, there are all these orbs floating around.
Wow. So that goes back to laws of attraction.
Yeah, so it's like they're listening, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely great. So let's go back in your book. Hold it up again because Naughty Vicky couldn't get it on the screen again. And cover of your book. Can you hold it up again?
Yeah. Is
You
that
can
a good?
find that, yeah, Sasquatch, Wisdom of the Hairy People. You can find that on Amazon. And he also has a Facebook group, same name as the book, Sasquatch, Wisdom of Hairy People. Go join the Facebook, y'all. Support them and get a book. Everybody needs a positive quotes. I will be getting one tonight. I'm going to treat myself to it. I would read a quote per day, but then you won't go buy the book. So I can't do it. So you have to get your own book to get your own quotes. How about that? Is that good advertisement, sir?
Oh yeah, that's a good plug. I do appreciate that.
You're welcome, sir.
Very
Is
much
there
so.
anything? Is there anything? Do you see why I always failed at sales jobs, right? It's terrible. Is there anything that we haven't touched on? Anything that you feel like you want to speak about?
Well, I was just going to say what I decided to do actually is I took a diversion in the road, so to speak, for my writing plans, because I am going to be, like I said, writing the second book of the Quantum Quotes series. And it's going to be about, it's going to be have quotes from extraterrestrials in it. And, but I found that I just wasn't hitting it on the nail for that project. So I decided to divert myself to what is going to be the main book I'm going to be publishing. And it's just a book that tells my story basically from the start to the present time. And it's going to be written, you know, like just telling a story, and, you know, other people's names are going to be changed, of course, because they don't want to have any part of it or whatever, right? Just for their privacy, right? And but yeah, it'll be about what happened and how it happened and why and all that kind of stuff. So that's gonna be the next book that's gonna come out.
I hope you keep in touch with me so we can stay on top of that. Where's your pretty little wife at? She was supposed to come sit beside you and show you some support. Are you in the doghouse tonight or something?
No, she's here. I'm not in the doghouse, am I?
No, not at all.
All right. I'm doing good.
Well, you tell her she has the prettiest smile.
Aw,
Wow.
Thank you so much.
You looked up on that one,
She does.
buddy.
she does.
Thanks,
All
Victoria.
right.
You.
You're welcome, beautiful. You are welcome. Once again, it is called Sasquatch, The Wisdom of Hairy People. You can find Graham on Facebook. His Facebook is Sasquatch, The Wisdom of Hairy People. Go check it out. You can see some photos in there, some of the shows he's done. If you want to hear a little bit of his music, Graham MacSkimming. It's on the screen. That's the spelling of it. I may not can say it, but that's the proper spelling because he put it up there. I did not. If I put it up there, it'd be misspelled. Graham MacSkimming.substack.com. And you can find his book once again on Amazon. And you have been a blast to have. And I thank you for putting up with all of the mispronunciations. I got your whole year wrong. But I told you before we started the show, I will slaughter an introduction. That's the most quirky part of every show I have.
You did good. You did good. It's all right.
All right. Well, I hope you'll come back on, and I hope you keep me updated. And until then, you take care of you.
Okay, you too, Victoria. It was great to be on the show.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Victoria.
Bye, Amy. Mwah, Amy.
Mwah.
Not you, Amy. Okay. Bye.